Emily smirked at me after I announced my resignation, her disdain unmistakable. I didn't respond with words, only a calm and steady gaze. The entire conversation had revolved around the company's decision to reduce labor costs, particularly targeting employees accused of exploiting overtime pay. Tom, ever eager to cut expenses, had been equally enthusiastic. A week later, my phone buzzed relentlessly with calls from the company. When I finally answered, the president's voice cut through sharply, demanding, "Who exactly are you?" I couldn't help but let out a dry laugh at the absurdity of the question. "I'm Lily Johnson," I replied coolly, "a 59-year-old employee who has worked here for 37 years since graduating college." I went on to explain our company's role in offering administrative services, focusing on supporting busy executives by managing clerical tasks and tax-related work. My role included overseeing 45 clients, an immense responsibility that had grown increasingly burdensome, even with the help of a part-timer. But despite the pressure, I never let it show. These clients had been with us for years, and I was determined to maintain those relationships, even when they faced challenges that demanded more from me. Sitting at my desk today, I couldn't ignore the mental toll of Tom and Emily's relentless harassment.
Tom,
who was promoted 3 months ago to head of the tax department, had undergone a complete transformation. Once polite and collaborative, he now spoke with condescension, constantly criticizing my work and brushing off my concerns. Every time I tried to address an issue, he dismissed me with a patronizing, "Consult the manual," or warned me against making unnecessary decisions. Emily, his assistant, was no better. She frequently mocked my role, questioning my efficiency and ridiculing me for remaining a rank-and-file employee. What she didn't know, what neither of them knew, was that I had declined a promotion to department head years ago. It wasn't out of a lack of ambition, but a desire to focus on the quality of my work rather than juggling administrative oversight. Despite the harassment, I committed to completing my responsibilities. Yet Tom and Emily's attacks continued. Tom accused me of driving up unnecessary overtime costs, while Emily sighed loudly, claiming my extra hours were dragging down the department's performance. The latest cause of my overtime was a mountain of client files Tom had unceremoniously dumped on my desk, demanding they be filed by the end of the month. These weren't ordinary files. Each came with urgent deadlines that required immediate attention. After work, I stared at the pile in disbelief. "Wait, these are all due this month," I muttered, my voice trembling with exhaustion and frustration. Before I could fully grasp the impossible task ahead, Tom was already packing up for the day, showing no interest in my concerns. His indifference was deafening. The weight of the situation settled heavily on my shoulders. But I knew one thing: this would be the moment that changed everything. "I'm heading out. Take care," Tom said casually, walking out of the office without a second glance. His words left a bitter taste in my mouth as I stared at the daunting stack of client files he'd dumped on my desk. Emily followed him, throwing a mocking laugh my way that only deepened the sting of the moment. I sighed and began sorting through the files. It didn't take long to notice something infuriating. Many of the files weren't even mine to handle. They had originally been Emily's responsibility. The realization settled heavily in my chest. Tom's relentless harassment wasn't random. It was clear they wanted me gone. With my decades of experience and deeper understanding of tax law, I was a resource others in the department relied on. More often than not, my colleagues preferred seeking advice from me over Tom, whose condescending attitude and unapproachable nature alienated everyone except Emily. Emily, on the other hand, seemed to have her own motives. Her harassment wasn't just about undermining me. It was a calculated move to stay close to Tom, who favored younger female employees. The dynamic between them was as shallow as it was unsettling. I pushed those thoughts aside and focused on the mountain of work in front of me. Despite the frustration, I had declarations to prepare, in addition to completing my own tax assignments. Yet, the prospect of claiming overtime hours seemed pointless. I could already hear the complaints Tom and Emily would lodge if I submitted them. Resigned, I prepared for another night of unpaid extra hours. Just as I began tackling the files, my phone buzzed. A message from the president's secretary summoned me to the executive office. The timing felt ominous. The company had recently transitioned to a new president, the son of our previous leader, who had stepped down due to a sudden illness. He wasn't yet familiar with the nuances of the company or the people running it. When I entered the office, Tom and Emily were already there, their smug expressions speaking volumes. I could feel the tension crackling in the air. The president wasted no time delivering his news. "Lily, we're asking you to resign by the end of the month." The words hit me like a freight train. "May I ask why?" I managed to say, keeping my voice as steady as I could. Tom and Emily were quick to answer, their accusations sharp and rehearsed. They claimed I had been overbilling for overtime, pointing out that while most employees reported around 15 hours a month, I had logged over 80. The president, unfamiliar with the actual workload dynamics, seemed impressed by their supposed efficiency. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but their smug smiles and the president's oblivious nods silenced me for a moment. The injustice of it all burned, but I knew this was far from over. They had underestimated me, and they would soon realize the mistake of trying to push me out. The reality of the situation hit me like a wave. The inflated overtime hours were the result of picking up the slack for Tom and Emily. Yet, revealing that truth could backfire, painting me as someone unable to manage time effectively. Instead, I calmly laid out the facts, explaining that my overtime was due to the overwhelming workload. The president sighed, his doubt evident. "Lily, without concrete proof, there's little more I can do. But if you're struggling to finish tasks on time, it's clear the pace of work isn't sustainable. Resignation seems to be the best course for all parties involved." His tone made it clear his decision was final. After 37 years of unwavering dedication to the company, I was being dismissed with a single breath. Despite the sting, I nodded. I had already communicated my intention to leave by month's end, and this meeting merely cemented the outcome. As I left the president's office, I caught the smug expressions on Tom and Emily's faces. Emily couldn't resist a parting jab. "Thanks for quitting, Lily," she sneered, her tone laced with mock gratitude. I met her comment with a steady, silent stare, refusing to give her the satisfaction of a reaction. Tom, standing beside her, was no less insufferable. He praised the cost-cutting measures, indirectly painting me as a leech who had exploited overtime pay. Their attitudes solidified my decision to leave with dignity. I began the meticulous process of organizing client files, creating comprehensive handover documents, and scheduling meetings with the clients I could see personally. For those I couldn't, I penned farewell letters to ensure a smooth transition. By the time my last day arrived, everything was in order. I handed over my responsibilities and left quietly, determined to close this chapter with grace. A week later, as I enjoyed the newfound calm of my post-resignation life, my phone rang. Seeing the company's name on the screen, I hesitated. I had already completed my social insurance paperwork and settled my affairs. What could they possibly want now? When I ignored the first call, my phone buzzed again and again. This time, the calls came not just from the company, but from Tom and Emily's personal numbers. Frustrated, I finally picked up. "Lily speaking," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Lily." The voice on the other end was frantic. It was Tom. "We need your help. Something's gone wrong with the client accounts, and we can't figure it out. Could you come in and—" I cut him off. The irony of the situation almost laughable. "Tom, I no longer work there. The handover documents were clear, and the new staff should be able to manage." "But," he began, desperation creeping into his voice. "Good luck," I said firmly, ending the call. I leaned back, a wry smile spreading across my face. It seemed they were finally realizing how much they had relied on me. And now, they would have to deal with the consequences of pushing me away. The room fell silent as the president's words hung in the air. Tom and Emily exchanged uneasy glances, their earlier arrogance fading into discomfort. The president turned to me, his expression both apologetic and serious. "Lily, It's clear now that the success of the tax department rested heavily on your expertise and dedication, he admitted. The company has lost significant trust and revenue since your resignation. We need you to come back. I folded my arms, meeting his gaze evenly. Mr. President, with all due respect, why should I return? I was harassed, undervalued, and forced out of a position I gave my life to for 37 years. What guarantee do I have that things will change? Tom, flustered, attempted to interject. We didn't mean for it to go this far. It was just. I held up a hand to silence him. You and Emily created this mess by undermining my work and dismissing my contributions. And now you expect me to fix it? Convince me why I should. Emily, visibly shaken, remained silent as the president leaned forward, his voice calm but resolute. Lily, I won't deny our mistakes. Your work went unappreciated, and that was a grave error. If you agree to return, you will have complete autonomy in your role, along with a promotion to oversee the department. Tom's eyes widened in disbelief. A promotion? He blurted. President? That's. The president cut him off. Enough, Tom. It's clear that Lily's approach is what made this department successful. Your methods have not worked. If anything, they've driven us into chaos. Emily glanced nervously at Tom, her confidence crumbling. I allowed myself a moment to consider. A promotion is tempting, I began, but I'll need more. I want written assurance that harassment of any kind will not be tolerated, and I want the authority to restructure the department as I see fit. The president nodded solemnly. Done. You'll have full authority to make the changes necessary to rebuild trust with our clients. Tom and Emily paled further, realizing the implications of my terms. What about us? Emily whispered, her voice trembling. I looked at them with a calm but firm expression. If I return, it will be under the condition that both of you either accept retraining under my supervision or find positions elsewhere in the company. You've proven you're unfit for leadership. Tom bristled, his jaw tightening, but he said nothing. The president extended his hand to me. Lily, I hope you'll consider this an opportunity to right the wrongs and restore the department to its former success. After a moment's pause, I shook his hand. I'll return under those conditions. But understand this, my loyalty lies with the clients and the integrity of our work. If I see any sign of the old toxic behavior, I'm gone for good. As I left the office, Tom and Emily avoided my gaze, their earlier smugness replaced with visible anxiety. I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. I had fought for my worth and emerged stronger, ready to reclaim my place, not as a victim, but as a leader who had earned her respect. The atmosphere in the room was thick with tension as the president delivered his final words. This company cannot afford employees who shirk their responsibilities and exploit their positions. Tom. Emily, your employment here is terminated effective immediately. Tom clenched his fists, his face flushed with frustration, while Emily's expression was a mixture of shock and humiliation. Their pleas for second chances fell on deaf ears. The president's decision was firm, and their downfall was a stark contrast to the arrogance they had displayed just days ago. As they prepared to leave, Emily hesitated by the door, her voice barely audible. I'm sorry, she mumbled, avoiding my gaze. It was a half-hearted apology, but it was more than I ever expected. Tom, on the other hand, turned back one last time, his eyes blazing with anger. You think you've won, Lily, but you'll regret this. Mark my words. I remained calm, meeting his gaze with quiet strength. The only regret I have is not standing up for myself sooner. Goodbye, Tom. With that, they left, their departure a symbol of the end of their toxic reign over the department. The president turned to me, his expression softening. Lily, I hope you'll reconsider staying with us. You're an invaluable asset, and I'd like to ensure that you're given the respect and recognition you deserve moving forward. I took a deep breath, letting the weight of the past few months settle. I'll need some time to think about it. I replied honestly. This has been an overwhelming experience. Of course, he said with a nod. Take all the time you need. As I left the office, The staff who had once been subjected to Tom and Emily's bullying gathered to thank me. Their smiles and kind words reminded me that my hard work hadn't gone unnoticed by everyone. Later that evening, as I sat at home reflecting on the day's events, I felt a sense of closure. The toxic influence of Tom and Emily was finally over, and the company had a chance to rebuild. Whether I chose to return or not, I knew I had regained my self-respect and proven my worth. Sometimes, standing up for yourself is the most powerful thing you can do. The president, infuriated by the revelations, declared his intent to cut Tom and Emily's final salaries and launch a thorough investigation into their past expense claims. He was adamant about uncovering every instance of fraud they had committed, determined to make an example of their dishonesty. As more details surfaced, the fallout from their actions grew even more severe. The affair between Tom and Emily became public knowledge, leading to Tom's messy divorce. His ex-wife, armed with evidence of infidelity and financial misconduct, filed a lawsuit demanding compensation. Both Tom and Emily now faced not only professional disgrace, but also significant legal and financial repercussions. Despite the president's repeated requests and assurances of a better working environment, I politely declined his offer to return to the company. Being asked to resign had been the final straw, and I couldn't imagine stepping back into a place where my dedication had been dismissed so easily. Instead, I chose a new path. I joined a friend's tax office, working part-time to supplement my income. The environment was supportive and stress-free, allowing me to focus on clients without the burden of unnecessary drama. For the first time in years, I felt truly appreciated and at peace. This transition marked the start of a new chapter in my life. Freed from the toxicity of my previous workplace, I had the opportunity to rediscover what truly mattered to me. Whether it was enjoying hobbies, exploring new interests, or simply savoring a quieter life, I embraced every moment with newfound excitement. My journey wasn't just about leaving behind a toxic environment. It was about reclaiming my happiness and moving forward with confidence. My second life had just begun, and I was eager to see where it would lead.